Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 13th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Jonny McFarlane. How are we doing, Jonny?
Great, Derek. Sun's streaming in, so I can't complain.
Absolutely, yeah. Likewise down here in Warrington, which is good to see a wee Indian summer. Before we talk all things Rangers, folks, as you know, we've still got that great offer on the website just now, just £1 for 2 months worth of content. So many of you taking advantage of it. Thank you for doing so. So head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe and you can sign up. It's a terrific offer. We're practically giving it away. So much content on there, so much terrific Rangers stuff to keep you amused ahead of not only tomorrow night's match, but further afield as well. So loads of people saying great work. So go and sign up, and I've put, as ever, the link in the comments section as well. Okay, let's talk all things Rangers. Jonny, a huge match taking place at Ibrox tomorrow. And before we touch on that, I wanted to touch on the comments made by Niko Katic. Of course, he left in the transfer window to join FC Zurich on a permanent deal, and he's been speaking about his time at Rangers, his frustration at Ibrox. He's claiming that Giovanni van Bronckhorst didn't communicate with him. I'll read you some of the quotes here this morning. It's an interview he's given to The Athletic. He says, they said we were to come back at maybe 80% of our fitness, but I was obsessed with my body fat as I wanted to come back 100%. Day one was about me trying to prove myself to Van Bronckhorst. It's nothing bad, but I felt I didn't get a chance as we didn't communicate. I asked his coaches whether they could walk me through their requests and what they expect from their defenders, but I didn't think they were interested, and I never got that information. I played 45 minutes in pre-season, and I was happy with how I did. I made one bad pass against Sunderland, but it wasn't anything big. I expected to play against West Ham and Tottenham at Ibrox and was hoping everyone would be looking at me again, but I was the only defender who didn't play. He goes on to say, I was really disappointed, so I went to his office and asked him to just tell me what was going on, as I didn't think I deserved that after getting injured and trying to get back to help Rangers. If I played bad, then fair enough, but at least give me a chance. He said he liked a different type of defender. I'm not Messi, but I see the defenders doing typical defender things, not anything special or making the last pass. If someone is Virgil van Dijk, then fair enough, but it's hard to watch the numbers of goals they're conceding right now, as I believe I could have helped, especially with the goals from set pieces. What do you make of that, Jonny? Of course, I think it goes without saying he's a player that didn't want to leave Rangers necessarily. Highly unfortunate with that long-term injury. He came back, and I think we've talked about this before. Rangers moved on to a different level, I think, and unfortunately for Niko Katic, he just missed too much football to return to the side as he was before. But it certainly looks like he's not happy with the manner and how he left the club.
Yeah, it's never easy to be rejected in any walk of life, and it must be really, really difficult, having been such a solid player for Rangers under Steven Gerrard, to then get that injury, and effectively that's your Rangers career over. And that's how it's panned out, hasn't it? He's not really had a chance since that point. Fundamentally, you look at the goals Rangers are conceding at set pieces this season, and you can see his point. You can understand why he's looking at that and going, I could offer more. But, and this is a major problem with Niko Katic as a player, I think, while he's a lion in both boxes, while he's a very good siege defender, and while it's just one-to-one defending is solid, 90% of the games Rangers play, you need someone who can build out from the back. Now, Niko Katic might have done a better job against Ajax. He might have done a better job against Celtic. He might have even done a better job against Hibs. But these are 3 difficult fixtures in a row. In terms of the other types of games that Rangers play, the day-to-day grind of the Scottish Premiership, I don't think Niko Katic is the guy to move Rangers forward, because the way he plays in terms of his passing, that's the weakest part of his game. So That I totally understand. But listen, James Skeen makes a great point. It's very, very hard to argue with what Katic is saying when Rangers are playing so poorly, because obviously someone who can head the ball, who can defend set pieces, is absolutely what Rangers have needed based on the last two performances. But big picture, zooming out and looking at the whole season, I think that's why Niko Katic doesn't have a Rangers contract at the moment, and he's playing at FC Zurich. I liked the guy. I thought he was wholehearted. I thought he was a good defender, but fundamentally, I don't think the long term was suited to the kind of way he played, and that's just the way it is. I know a lot of people think, well, look at the defending, and if that goes on, then that'll be correct. But based on where we are at the moment, that's how I would see it.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where the player has left. Rangers are in poor form defensively, and it's almost one of those when players are out injured, they almost become better than what they are. The coaching staff would have seen Niko Katic, I'm sure, in close detail during training. And unfortunately, they decided that he wasn't the player for him. Could he do a job right now? Possibly, especially with the defence as poor as it is just now, and with regards to set pieces as well. It's certainly something that Rangers will be put to the test fully on Wednesday night as well. Jason, yes,
just one thing there. That a great comment coming in. Balogun better at Katic than both. I totally agree with that. That to me is the question. If you're talking about Niko Katic in defence, the more pertinent question is not about Niko Katic. It's about Leon Balogun, who's better than Niko Katic. And
Jason Meikle also sort of touches on that. Should have given Katic a chance. Manager also made a mistake letting Balogun leave. There's two camps with regards to Balogun, I think, Johnny. And again, it's one of those where if Rangers don't lose 4-0 in the last two games, I don't think it's really a conversation to be had. But you can hear a number of supporters feeling that he certainly would be a good option to have, especially with the injuries, of course, to Helander, and we had to see John Suter. Ben Davis is another one. Will we see him tomorrow? Remains to be seen. I know your piece on the website discussed him. He has to be brought in ASAP. The money that's been spent on this guy put Yilmaz in the same category. Rangers need to find spots in the first team for them.
I think Yilmaz is slightly different, Derek, because Borna Barisic is playing well. He's Croatian international, and Yilmaz is 21, coming from Turkey, which is a completely different style of football. I think the plan with Yilmaz was always to kind of ease him in, given his age, unless he exploded. But you don't keep Barisic and add Yilmaz if you're going to just drop Barisic. That doesn't really make any sense, does it? No. So I think there's a long-term plan there with Yilmaz. Davis is not a long-term plan. He's 26, 27? He's
like that,
in the prime of his career. Yes, significant money has been spent on both, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a different strata in terms of the way that they want to behave with the players. Ben Davies has coped with the championship. Unfortunately for Rangers, Ben Davies is not like a lion in the box. He's not a Nikola Katic or a Leon Balogun. He's a guy who plays out. His weakness is actually, big balls in the box, but it can't be that weak because he's survived as one of the best defenders in the championship for many seasons. And Liverpool bought him on that basis. So if it was such a weakness, then he wouldn't have got to that exalted level as Jurgen Klopp actually coming in and suggesting that they go and nab him. But when you spend that kind of money on a centre-back, a left-sided centre-back, you've got Connor Goldson there already. You're obviously doing it to go and make a partnership. That's clear. And for one, I always like a left-sided centre-back and a right-sided centre-back. The reason for that is that you can move the ball so much quicker. If you've got a left-sided centre-back, you move the ball across them, and it's one touch out to the wings or into the middle. It's not touch, then a pass. So it really speeds things up, and that's a big part of the reason why Rangers build-up is going to be crucial, is to have someone with a left foot in there. He, for me, is a key component of the plan for this season, and the sooner you get him in, the better. Now, there's a lot of discussion around James Sands. The most popular thing in the world, if I wanted to just be popular, I'd just say Davis and Sands, because that's what's popular to say. I don't believe it, though, so I'm not going to sit here and lie, and I'm happy for people to tell me I'm talking rubbish. That's fine. I normally do talk rubbish. But my opinion is that Davis and Goldson was always the intention. The money the club are paying Goldson, the history Goldson has at the club in terms of being the main central defender that took the team to Europa League final, 55, etc., etc. The idea was him and Davies play. So I'd like to see that, to be honest, and I'd like to see that being given a chance to bed in. And then if that doesn't work, then you can look at other options. The other thing that it does, Derek, is it frees up James Sands to move up one and sit alongside Lundstrom. And maybe that would give the team a bit more solidity in terms of the defensive aspect of the game from midfield. 6'1", obviously, Sands, physically strong for a midfielder. He's in that sort of position where he's a big, strong lad for a midfielder, but for a defender, he's kind of on the small side. And now, listen, I know that these defenders now at Manchester United 5'9", not under Martinez, but and we know Cannavaro's 5'9", so sometimes it doesn't matter about the size, but he's imposing as a midfielder, that's for sure. And if you have him in Lundstrom, maybe that would allow Rangers more of a sort of stable defensive base.
Yeah, so many comments coming in, folks. I'll try and get to a few of them. There's one here, Katic loyal, and a lot of comments coming in. People aren't happy with Connor Goldson at the moment, Johnny.
Yeah, that's certain, mate.
Yeah. He said Goldson, Kent, and Taverny dropped this loyalty to certain players was the same as Gerrard.
I cannot get behind that. I cannot get behind it. I know they're playing badly, but you can't drop that level of quality from the team. I think Kent, yes, you need to pick one of them, and I think the one you pick is Ryan Kent. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, Ken, I've went on record saying a number of times he's off the boil. I think Rangers have got options out there to come in, give it a bit of freshness. A spell on the sidelines might do him the world of good. I just think he's not playing well enough, and we've seen that in Ajax, and he's costing goals as well, Johnny. That's the thing. We've seen it at Parkhead. Folk were saying as well at Easter Road, the pass that Lundstrom gets sent off as well. The Ajax game wasn't his best of performances either, and Rangers have got options out there. I suggested a number of players that could fill that role. I even said even pushing Yilmaz up, and that could accommodate Barisic or stick Fashion Sakal out there. I know he isn't really fancied, and you've got Rabbi Matondo, who played a lot of games for Cercle Bruges last season, scored a lot of goals from that area of the pitch as well. So they do have options, Rangers. It's not a case of they don't have anyone out there that can come in and do a job. But yeah, it remains to be seen if there'll be changes for Napoli. Do you think there will be a lot of changes, Johnny, going into that game? Coming off the back of 2 4-0 defeats, you've got to imagine there's going to be some element of alterations.
I think there has to be. You just can't put up with that level of performance 2 games in a row and not come in and wield the axe. It was shocking, Derek, and I totally get the anger, because listen, watching it, we were angry watching it. You know, it's unacceptable for that level of endeavour to mark a Rangers performance. These players don't normally hide, but that game, really, Derek, it was really, really disappointing to see such a sort of shot shy, a soft performance, unable to lay a glove. You know, I think Joshua was talking about the XG 0.09. I mean, I know Ajax are a good side, but Ajax are a good side, but I'll get there eventually. But it was just appalling. There's no other words for it, Derek. It was absolutely terrible. So I get the anger, but sometimes you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. And for me, Rangers' 4 best players or 5 best players would be some approximation of Morelos, Kent, Lundstrom, Tavernier, Goldson. And if you start ripping things apart, root and branch, then you've got the danger there of kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think it needs to be a careful work done here. Just based on Ryan Kent, the reason I would take him out at the moment is it's just his attitude. To be honest, Derek, and Ryan Kent, and I want to stress this, is not a guy that's ever gone into his shell and hidden during his Rangers career. He's always been able to stand up, take the ball, and try something, even when it wasn't working. He's always grafted hard for the team. But I haven't seen that in the last 2 games. And he's not creating anything and he's not grafting. So I would take him out. You can't say that Goldson's not trying. Even if he's not playing well, Tavernier's been injured.
Yeah.
So I'd give them the benefit of the doubt. Like I say, I think Ben Davis coming in to help, an experienced centre-half who's been there and done it. Lundstrom, obviously not having a great time, but I think he's not been helped by his manager in terms of the tactics and the selections that have been taking place in that midfield. So I would keep those guys. I think one of the things is, and listen, a few of the guys are saying it in the comments, and I said this in my piece the other day, they need to get Morelos back in. And I know that might require some level of compromise, adjustment, accepting of what might be unacceptable to the manager in terms of some of his behaviours. But there's only another 5, 6, 7 months of this kind of marriage between Morelos and Rangers. I can't see a new deal being signed now. And I think if you get a hold of Morelos and get a hold of his agent, they'll understand that Alfredo Morelos is at this moment, his next club's going to be someone like Genoa, like Nantes. Like it's going to be a mid-table top 5 league club. And when I say top 5 leagues, it's not going to be the Premier League.
Yeah.
Maybe at a push, you might get a good move to Spain. But if you're Sevilla, who's had an interest in Morelos, you're looking at his performances this season and saying, this is a guy we want to snap up? Or do you say, well, he was good 3 seasons ago, but he's not really done anything in the last 18 months? He needs to get back in the saddle. He needs to get back fit and firing. If he wants to make his next move something that's lucrative and also befitting his talent. So I think it's time to come together with Morelos. I think it's time to bring him back in. Listen, I think Cholak's a really good signing. I've said that over and over again. Cholak in the SPFL against the lower lights, get him in. But Morelos you need against these teams like Napoli.
Yeah.
I'd throw Morelos in against Napoli, I've got to be honest. You've got to be careful. And we don't know the sort of ins and outs of what's going on in the dressing room with Alfredo Morelos.
Yeah.
But I think you need to get him back in and find a happy medium with that player. For me, and Derek, this may be controversial, but I'm just going to say it. Fit and firing Alfredo Morelos is still the best player at Ibrox. Yeah. And it's about getting the best players in.
Yeah. And it's a good point that John makes. He says Alfredo has to come back in, but he says he ties in with Ryan Kent. You think Morelos could get the best out of players around him like Kent. They do have a good partnership, of course, and perhaps that's who he needs. He needs Alfredo back in the side. Who knows? But I think I agree with you, Johnny. I think, it's the stage that he's always wanted to play at as well. I just think I just want to see him up front for Rangers again. It's been a long time now. I know there was a fallout, of course, after what happened at Easter Road and his attitude and whatever else. But I think now he's back in the squad. I think Rangers need to play him because, as you mentioned, the XG in Amsterdam, Rangers didn't get anywhere near close enough to Antonio Cholak. They needed an out ball and then never had anything. It just came back to them every time the ball went up forward. So, for Morelos, for me, tomorrow night. I want to touch on as well, I've been speaking to a Napoli podcaster. You'll see this on later on our YouTube channel, folks. And then Marco Negri was also talking about Napoli with me tomorrow. That's a piece you can find on the website, folks. I'll put the link in the comments section. And worryingly, he was talking about set pieces, Johnny, and said that Napoli are very good at set pieces. They're always changing them up and doing something special. And this was also mentioned by the podcaster I spoke to, said that it's no one knows what they're going to do. There's sometimes that they'll have two players going out to take a corner and they'll both dummy it, and then another player will take it. So opposition defences have no idea what's going on. And with Rangers' recent record at set pieces, this is something they're going to have to really be switched on for, because Napoli, like teams before, your likes of PSV and what have you, Ajax, of course, last week, they'll look to exploit that.
Yeah, 100%. They will look to exploit that, and that's a chilling statistic, quite frankly, Derek. Rangers have got to get their act together in this game. I mean, first of all, deadly difficult 3-game run. Obviously we're aware of the situation that's been going on in the country, with the sad passing of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. But any Rangers manager is going to struggle with Celtic away, Ajax away, Napoli at home when they're top of Serie A. That's a brutal run. But so much now rests on this being a good, solid performance at Ibrox tomorrow night, Derek. I mean, imagine if this is another 4-0 victory for Napoli tomorrow. If it's another spanking, it just puts an incredible amount of pressure on Giovanni van Bronckhorst. And one of the things he must do, and I really hope he's been doing in this time that has been provided, is drilling those set pieces. Now, Josh has got a great piece up on the website today about how poor Rangers set pieces have been, both from an attacking sense as well as a defensive sense.
Yeah,
the XG's plummeted in terms of set pieces over the course of the season so far. Celtic have scored 6 goals from set pieces so far this season. Rangers have scored 1. So this was a real strength. Steven Gerrard used to talk about it all the time. Tom Colshaw was a set piece guy at Ibrox. He used to work hard on drilling the players, and they used to score a number of set pieces under Steven Gerrard.
Yeah,
that's disappeared this season. It's a huge part of modern football. If you can't get set pieces right, you're in deep, deep trouble. I think we need to find out. Derek, I know you're speaking to the manager today, or Josh is speaking to the manager today. Sorry, should I say?
Yeah, later on at Ibrox.
He'll be asking about set pieces and what's going on there, because it's pertinent. We need to know who's in charge of them. We need to know what they're trying to do. Is it just zonal marking? Very few managers nowadays just do zonal marking, but it looks like they've reverted to simply zonal marking. Now, Derek, you've been banging the drum. Listen, I totally agree on zonal marking. It was always a hybrid, which is totally normal. It's what all the major clubs do. But to do simply zonal, very, very dangerous. Very few people do that anymore. Very, almost anachronistic. So we need to get to the bottom of that. And hearing that Napoli are very good at set pieces is just not what I want to be reading over my breakfast cornflakes, mate. Very concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, they're top side, Napoli, but Negri said that they're a young side as well. So the atmosphere at Ibrox may spook them a little bit. So the fans will certainly have to play their part tomorrow night. But there's no doubt about it, Johnny. There's no getting away from it. There is a bit of a subdued feeling amongst the supporters. I felt that in Amsterdam, where really they should be looking forward to such a huge, momentous occasion. But I mean, they sang their hearts out as ever. But speaking to them before the game, and the feeling afterwards was just a general deflatedness amongst them. And I really hope that the atmosphere is fantastic tomorrow night. But there's no getting away from it at the moment. Unfortunately, it's a bit of doom and gloom around the place.
Undoubtedly. We saw that, as you say, Derek, going out to Amsterdam. We had yourself and Josh out there. Normally it's been a bit of a party atmosphere going out to these games. I don't think that was the case in Amsterdam, of all places, the ultimate party town. And it was just a bit flat. I mean, we're seeing the sort of interest go a little bit flat, and it's just emblematic of a support that is in a funk. that is upset and annoyed and angry. And I think the other thing is resigned that this is not going to get better, because I think a lot of what's been shown this season, a lot that we've seen in these last two games, these are little narrative strands that have been running throughout Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's reign, and almost in the last two games, those have come to the fore. I still think this can be turned around, Derek. I'm still positive about it. I'm not so positive about. I'm not so positive at all about the game on Wednesday. I think that's a really, really difficult one, and it's going to be a very good result to get a win and a decent result to get a draw. But I think they can pull it back. They need to start doing the basics. They need to start sorting out set pieces. If they can do those things, they have a chance. I keep going back to it, but we know that Rangers have the capacity to come back from tough beatings. They came back from the 3-0 defeat at Parkhead. They came back from the 2-1 defeat at Ibrox by Celtic. And they came back with panache, with style, with power, with aggression. That's what they need to do. Can these players keep going to the well? That's the question, I suppose. And we'll find out. But I understand why there's a sense of concern, because certainly on the pitch, there's not been a lot of cause for celebration. The one thing I would say, Derek, and I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah.
The one positive is that in these last two games, when you pick apart all 8 goals, I think 7 are individual mistakes. Yeah. So despite the fact that they took a tanking from Celtic and Ajax, the goals that they lost were mostly ridiculous. I mean, 25% of the goals were a Rangers player passing the ball to the opposition so that they're one-on-one with the keeper.
Yeah.
25%. And then if you look at the other ones, things like, winning 50-50s, losing 50-50s in this case, things like that. So the one positive is that can't continue with professional players. It won't continue, because the players making the mistakes will be replaced and others will be brought in. So I think we will see improvement. You can't not see improvement on that basis.
Yeah. I think it's clearly a confidence issue with the players. So many of them look devoid of belief just now. I think they need to get that back. I think it's a difficult one after 2 hidings. Looking at the league, you're 5 points behind a team that is flying at the moment, and you're going up. You should be relishing the test that's coming up tomorrow night, and I really hope the players certainly do, because they can turn it around. Comment coming in saying they have beaten some top clubs in the last in this calendar year, and they should go into the game with confidence, because they know they can take on sides like this. But the Champions League is different gravy, and we've seen last week that if you switch off for a second or you make a bad pass, it's punished almost immediately. I think Rangers were perhaps fortunate to come away with just a 4-0 defeat last week. So they need to be on top of their game tomorrow night. But getting that confidence back is key, I think, Johnny. We know they're good players. They've showed that by reaching the Europa League final last season. But this is a new season, new players. And at the moment they're underperforming. So that's why Giovanni Van Bronckhorst gets paid the money to coach the side, and the onus is on him to get them up for this game and get them playing the way that they can play. So it's a big ask. I think they're going to be under the cosh for much of the game. This is a good side. They're playing top of Serie A, unbeaten, of course, in the league at the moment, but they're not unbeatable, even though they pumped Liverpool last week.
They're not unbeatable. They just beat Liverpool 4-1. Was it 4-0? 4-0, 4-1? I can't remember, but what was the score? 4-1?
4-1, yeah. They missed a penalty, remember, and they had a ball cleared off the line, and I think Liverpool were a bit lucky to come out of there with just a 4-1 hiding. So, it's a tough group. Listen, Rangers are in pot 4. They're playing top teams in this group. No game is going to be easy, but they're going to have to play a lot better than they did last week.
I wasn't in the mood to watch football after Rangers Ajax, put it that way, Derek. So I did not watch the game, but I saw the highlights, obviously. It was certainly impressive to see Napoli put together a performance like that, and they've got a very good team, and Spalletti is a very, very good manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be really difficult. And listen, we're trying to be as positive as we can be, because listen, there's nothing else for it. You've just got to try and see and hope that Rangers can pull it together and get back to the kind of level of form that we've seen in the past. Even though there are things undoubtedly that suggest that that's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Listen, I think there's a great point there in terms of Ali Quinn there, Derek, saying, when is Tom Lawrence back? Anyone for 2 points? I think that's another thing that hopefully we can find out today. The club have got to a stage where they don't really like giving too much information about injuries. I think it's fair to say that they've kind of stopped giving too much detail, Derek, on that front.
With regards to that, Van Bronckhorst did say he won't be back before the international break. So what's that, next week? So you're talking a couple of weeks, I think, with Tom Lawrence at least.
Yeah.
He's been a big miss.
But I think what they're trying to do is they don't want to put pressure on players by saying, okay, we'll be back in 10 days. And then
the Jordan
Rossiter scenario. So I can kind of understand that, but it's frustrating because you're kind of counting down the days to when these players might be able to come back in and offer alternatives.
Yeah.
Kemar Roof, for example, I think was pictured training quite recently, wasn't he? On his Instagram that he was back in amongst it.
Yeah.
I think Gio may have confirmed that as well. And to be honest, when you need to change it up, Kemar Roof's a player that he's of a certain standard of quality that that he's someone that could be an option. That's, say for example, playing him on the right flank. We know he can play there. We've seen him play there before for Steven Gerrard. Do I like him out there? I prefer him as a number 9. But if you've got Cholak and you've got Morelos, Roof's probably not going to play that much. So as an option out there, I don't think it's the worst idea, and gives you some more bite up front, someone who can score goals. So, I think definitely there's a need for Rangers to kind of shake it up and having information about the players' injuries does help us have a think about how that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank Mann said Roof's not in the Champions League squad.
Neither is.
Domestically, it'll be good good to have him back. And just finishing up, Aldo says, how about Lowry? We asked David McCallum this yesterday ahead of the youth team game, folks. It's taking place at Firhill. The Rangers, it's under 19 UEFA Youth League. They're taking on Napoli on Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. I think is the kickoff time for that one. He said that he's not back on the football pitch, but he's progressing well. He's positive and upbeat, but again, no time scale on when he'll be back in the reckoning as well. But let's hope it's sooner rather than later, because I think everyone wants to see more of Alex Lowry, given what we've seen last season. So good luck with his recovery. Okay, folks, I think that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone, as ever, for getting in touch with the show. It really is much appreciated. We'll be back. Well, in fact, as we mentioned, Joshua will be at the Rangers press conference a little later on for us, so we'll have all the fallout from that on the website and on our social media channels, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll be back again tomorrow to look ahead to the big one at Ibrox on Wednesday night against Napoli. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.